Hello friends, and welcome back to the channel for another quick champion guide where today we're going to be taking a look at the final champion of 2024 and one that I have grown to enjoy using quite a bit in the time that I've been able to test her, and that is Isophyne here. So Isophyne has a simple but very effective damage rotation, and she utilizes a brand new mechanic to MCOC, which we'll talk about a bit more here shortly. So we're going to cover her damage in both ideal and non-ideal matchups, and we'll cover both short and longer form fights. Now, while I think she is going to be a pretty solid Battlegrounds attacker, I think she's really going to shine in those medium-sized health pools that you're going to find in a mode like Alliance War. Now, as we always do in these guides, let's begin today by answering a question that I'm sure at least one of you has already started typing in the comments below. Actually, no one has typed that question in the comments in quite some time, and that is, does Isophyne need to be awakened? Now, the answer to this one for the vast majority of matchups is an easy no. However, there is one huge exception to this, and that is Serpent, who is a defender that you almost certainly want her duped for. So if we take a look at the signature ability here, you're going to see that it has three different parts to it. And the first part says that she will place an indefinite 125% marked passive on any cosmic when they are below 10% health. Now 125%, you might recall, is the same potency of Serpent's death immunity buff, which means if you have her duped, she just automatically turns off his death immunity completely. And you get the full benefit of this ability right away at Sig 1. So Sig 1, or you get her duped for the first time, no more death immunity for call, and again, happens automatically. You don't need to trigger it manually with part of her kit. It should also be noted that this will work on a champ like Hercules or Hela, but let's be real, neither of them are even remotely as problematic as Serpent is. Now, the other 2 points here are where the Sig scales, and truth be told, these are both really just nice to haves. So whenever she uses a special attack, she can gain a non-stacking regen passive. That's going to heal a percentage of your missing health, and she does have the ability to spam a lot of special attacks, so you will be getting this regen pretty often. And if you're a Battlegrounds player, you'll probably appreciate this part of her Sig because it allows you to keep her health topped off and your score a little bit higher. But again, not really required to play her. And then this last point here grants her a power gain passive at the start of the fight. This really just helps her ramp a little bit faster, and it caps out at just under a full bar of power at max Sig. So overall here, you get a ton of value either with the Awakening Gem or the first dupe, and additional Sig levels as you get them won't feel bad, but they also really don't feel necessary either. Alright, with all of that out of the way, let's jump right into some gameplay. Alright, the very first thing that you want to know about Isophyne is that she has a brand new mechanic called a Fractured Power Bar. So this means that you are able to use any special attack that she has the power for. So for example, at 3 bars of power, not only can you use the special 3, you can instead use 3 special 1s in a row, or a special 1 and then a special 2, and well, you get the idea. Being able to choose any special attack like this makes her one of the most flexible champions in the game. Now with some other mystics, gaining too much power can sometimes be frustrating because you're stuck having to dump your power with a special attack that you didn't want to use. And this is especially the case if you're running max Mystic Dispersion. But with Isophyne, it's not a problem because you can use any special attack you want at any time, and this ends up making her damage rotation a lot easier to manage. The next thing you want to know about are her ego passives. She gains these when she gains a bar of power or when nullifying a buff. They stack up to 10 and each of them grants her roughly 18% additional attack. Now in ideal buff heavy matchups, you're going to find it pretty easy to keep these at or near the cap of 10, which means your attack rating in these fights will be almost tripled for large portions of it. And in non-ideal matchups, you should expect them to level out at around 4 or 5, which is still a decent enough attack increase. Alright, so at the start of the fight, you want to stick to medium, light, 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 light combos. All of Isophyne's light attacks have a 35% chance to nullify a buff on the defender. If a nullify occurs, you're going to notice that you're gaining some power because even if you don't have the mastery unlocked, she has rank 3 Mystic Dispersion built right into the kit. Now, if the nullify triggers but the defender has no buffs active, you're going to instantly gain 10% of a bar of power, and this allows her to build some tempo even in non-ideal matchups. From here, you're going to want to build up to above 2 bars of power and then use your special 1 to inflict an energy vulnerability passive. If you wait to use the special attack until you're above 2 bars, you're actually going to inflict 2. And remember, gaining power isn't really a huge issue for her, so it won't be as slow to get there as you might think. Her basic attacks are all energy damage too, so these energy vulns will make her combos hit a lot harder as well. The SP1 is also going to nullify 2 buffs, which is again going to help you build up those ego passives and increase your attack rating if a nullify occurs, or grant you some power if there aren't any buffs to nullify. Now, the energy vulnerabilities stack up to 8, and one of the key parts about playing Isophyne is understanding how many you need to stack in a particular matchup before going in for the kill. Now, in ideal and buff-heavy matchups, you should have no problem quickly getting up to 8, but in non-ideal matchups, you may want to stick with 4, possibly 6, because keeping up all 8 stacks in those types of fights is going to be very difficult. Continue to spam your special 1 until you have the desired number of energy vulns, then build up to your special 2. Fire it off, and you're going to see that for each ego passive, you're going to gain a fury passive for the duration of the special attack, and each of these furies provides an additional 20% attack on top of what you're already getting from the ego passive. So consider that a special 2 with all 10 ego passives is going to give you a whopping 385% bonus attack. In short fights or with a lucky crit or 2, the fight is probably over at this point. Now, if the fight isn't over, you'll see that you've inflicted a Wither passive. This is going to last for 24 seconds and completely halts all passive power gain. While this Wither is active, all nullifies are doubled, which not only means twice the buffs removed, also twice the power gain when there aren't any buffs to nullify. So you can see how she has a lot of things built into her kit that makes her power somewhat self-sustaining. I find it pretty clever. And then at this point you can build up to another special 2, use whatever energy vulnerabilities you have left, and go in for the kill. Alright, let's take a look at a fight in real time. This is a rank 3 Serpent on the CCP beta server, BG-sized health pool around 375,000 health, and you're going to see just how effective she is at taking him out in particular. So at the start of the fight, we're using our light attacks to nullify his big fury buff, nullify his power gain, and just a couple seconds in, we are already above 2 bars of power, firing off a special 1 to get our energy vulnerabilities going. We're going to bait out and parry the hits in this special 2, and you can see that although her power seems to be gaining quickly, you are always in control because you can choose what special you want. Tossing a second special 1 to bring our total up to 4. You can see we're already back above 2 bars of power, ready for our third special 1, and as we fire it, we again are already back above 2 bars of power, and ready for our fourth and final special 1. We have the cap of 8 energy vulns now, so we're going to be baiting and dexing this special 1, and then we're going to combo into the striker, into the special 2, and this Serpent is absolutely destroyed. Full yellow bar finish, 375,000 health on maybe the toughest defender in the game in under 60 seconds. An incredible champ. Alright, let's up the ante a little bit. This is an Alliance War sized Serpent, over 500,000 health, and it doesn't take Isophyne much longer to deal with a health pool this much larger than the previous one. So at the start of the fight here, we're going to use the same tactic, utilize our light attacks to nullify his big fury, nullify his power gain, and we're going to start firing off our special 1s and getting our energy vulnerabilities going up to the max of 8. Now the big difference between this fight and the previous one is that you're going to notice that the special 2 doesn't actually kill him outright, but because of the way she can easily manage her power gain, it enables her to reset her damage rotation very quickly. If some of the energy vulnerabilities have dropped off, she has the option to fire off a special 1 to get them back up to 8, or she can jump right back up to a special 2 and finish the fight off that way. So as I'm talking here, we've already hit the cap of 8 energy vulnerabilities. We're going to go right into the special 2 before the first 2 expire. We get a nice 100k crit there on the last hit of the special 2. Blocking these hits in the special 2, we are back down to 6 energy vulnerabilities, but he is close enough to dead that I feel like we can go back up to the special 2, fire a second 1 off, and he is dead. That is a 560,000 health Serpent done in 1 minute and 7 seconds. Alright, the third fight I want to show you before we review the rotation is how she performs in non-ideal matchups with little to no buff. So we have the Star-Lord here, just under 500,000 health, And you're going to see how we adjust our damage rotation to account for the fact that we won't be able to stack up our energy vulnerabilities up to the maximum of 8. It's very tricky to keep them capped out against a defender with no buffs. And I get that Star-Lord is a bit of a vanilla defender. He has very quick special attacks, not much going on in his kit, and you can more or less just punch him and bait out specials and go. But this should give you a decent idea of how she performs in similar matchups here. So we're going to stick with 6 energy vulns because he's being so cooperative. Otherwise, I probably would have just capped myself out at 4. Combo into the striker, into another combo, into the special 2. And that does a whole bunch of damage. Nice 70k plus crit to finish off that special 2. And then from here, we can just rebuild our energy vulns if we feel it's necessary. But again, similar to the previous fight, he is close enough to death that another special 2 finishes the job. That is a 500k non-buff opponent dead in under 60 seconds. Okay, real quick, let's cover the rotation that you're going to use for Battlegrounds and War. At the start of the fight, utilize your light attacks to nullify buffs or gain power if the defender doesn't have any buffs for you to nullify. Use your special 1 when you're at least 2 bars of power, and that's going to give you 2 energy vulns rather than 1. Repeat that step until you feel like you have enough energy vulnerabilities for that specific matchup. And again, in ideal matchups against buff-heavy opponents, 6 and 8 are definitely where you want to be. And then in non-ideal matchups against champions with few or no buffs, you're probably going to want to stick to 4, maybe 6 if they're being very cooperative. Once you have the energy vulnerabilities built up, you want to build up to 2 bars of power, use your special 2, try and get as much ego as possible, and for this you may want to use your special 2 when you're at 3 bars of power, but again, you don't want your energy vulnerabilities to fall off. And in ideal matchups, again, buff-heavy matchups, you're going to be nullifying a lot. It is going to be very easy for you to stay at 10 ego. In non-ideal matchups, you probably want to aim for around half that. Any more, and it's going to be really tough to keep that ego up. And then finally, if your opponent isn't dead from that special 2, you can either re-ramp with additional energy vulnerabilities or use your special 2 again to likely finish the job. Alright, the last thing I want to cover here is her special 3, which is really only useful in large health pools. Now, in general, I would say that Isophyne doesn't feel great in long fights, but she does have this additional source of damage for you to take advantage of in those kinds of matchups. So looking at the special 3 here, it inflicts a degen passive that's going to deal 40,000 damage over 35 seconds, and you can increase this damage per energy vulnerability up to a maximum of about 70,000 damage. And the key here is that the degen is going to be paused during special attacks, and since she spams them a lot, you're going to have this constant stream of degen on the defender, and it's going to end up lasting for a lot longer than 35 seconds. And then the bonus here is the second point. While the degen is active, you're going to get an additional energy vuln per special 1. And this means that you can get possibly 3 per special 1 if you're throwing them above 2 bars of power. And this is going to allow you to re-ramp between special 2s very quickly. Alright, let's take a look at a larger health pool. This is a Serpent with 1.2 million health, so roughly double what the previous Serpent has. And you're going to see in this fight how we kind of have to balance between the energy vulnerabilities from the special 1 and building up to our special 3 to get as much degen as possible. So at the start of the fight, we are beginning the same way here, nullifying his Fury, nullifying his power gain, building up the energy vulns with the special 1 until we have, I think we want to go with about 6 here before we can get to the special 3. You kind of have to play it by ear a little bit because depending on how many buffs the opponent has, how much power you're gaining, you might have to settle for 4, or you may be able to get all 8 before you get to the special 3, but I think we stick with 6 here. So right there, we fire off the special 3 at 6 energy vulns. That's going to give us a pretty decent bonus to the degen passive here, and you're going to see it ticking for quite a bit of damage for pretty much the remainder of the fight here. So degen passive is up. It is ticking for 6,000 damage per second, and again, this degen passive is paused during special attacks. That includes his special attacks, by the way. So where it's going to end up lasting for a lot longer than the listed 35 seconds. Our energy vulns have begun to fall off here, but we're going to be getting a bonus 1 while that degen is active, building up to 2+ bars, firing off another special 1. You can see that gave us 3 energy vulns rather than 2. Firing off another one, we are already re-ramped back at 6, and he is already down to half health. I think I go for the third special one here to get ourselves back up to the max of 8 energy vulns, and now we are ready to do some huge damage with a big special 2. And again, this whole time the degen has been ticking him down. It is only about halfway through its cycle here. Nice big special 2, doesn't kill him unfortunately, but that's fine. We are still doing that constant and steady stream of damage. Fire off a second special 2, and then down he goes. That is a 1.2 million health Serpent in roughly 2 minutes or so. I think it's just below 2 minutes. Yeah, minute 53, but either way, still really, really impressive for a difficult defender. Alright, quickly let's review the rotation for a long fight. Start off the same way, utilize those light attacks to nullify buffs and or gain power if the opponent doesn't have any buffs to nullify. You can use the special one to build up your energy vulnerabilities, but again, the total number that you want to aim for is matchup dependent, and you can always just go straight to the special 3 and skip this step if you're finding it difficult to maintain those energy vulnerabilities in non-ideal matchups. Fire off your special 3, that's going to give you the degen passive, and again the degen is going to be paused during your special attacks and the opponent's special attacks, so it's really going to last a lot longer than 35 seconds. While this degen is active, your special 1 is going to grant you a third energy vulnerability if you fire it off above 2 bars of power. From here you can re-ramp with your special 1 if you need to add more energy vulnerabilities, and then use your special 2 for big damage, and then repeat as necessary. If your degen has run out, you'll want to start over with that part, or you can again just re-ramp with a special 1, or you can go right back to another special 2. Her rotation at this point is very, very flexible. That's going to do it for another champion guide, and I really hope you enjoyed it. I think players are going to pick up on Isophyne very quickly, and having an automatic counter in her kit to Serpent is very valuable to me. If this guide was helpful to you, you can help me right back by clicking that like button. Subscribe if you haven't already. Make sure to share the guide with your friends and your alliance mates. And if you've made it this far into the video, you can leave me a comment below that says, "I'm so fine." As always, thank you very much for watching. We'll see you again next time.